Do Black Lives Matter? Do Blue Lives Matter? Do All Lives Matter? Do No Lives Matter? These were the questions that the USA were trying to ask in the month of July 2016, and these questions were brought up due to the police violence on African American citizens. The event that lit the spark for the turmoil that we saw in July was the Alton Sterling shooting that happened on the 5th of that month. In the New York Times article, Alton Sterling shooting in Baton Rouge prompts Justice Department investigation, it states, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Justice Department opened a civil rights investigation on Wednesday into the fatal shooting of black man by the Baton Rouge, Louisiana police. After a searing video of the encounter aired repeatedly on television and social media, reignited contentious issues surrounding police killings of African Americans. 2 white officers were arresting Alton B. Sterling, 37, early Tuesday after responding to a call about an armed man. The officers had Mr. Sterling pinned to the ground when at least one of them shot him. I could show you the video of the event, but I don't want to, because it makes me queasy, and if you haven't seen the video, I would recommend you see it, so you can make your own decision if the killing was justified or not. But in my opinion, the killing was completely unjust, because you can clearly see Sterling was down, and he could not reach in his pockets to grab a gun. Quick side note, this is not a gun rights video, I will do another video on that topic. Wow, I sound like the Google Translate woman. After that shooting, and several others similar to it, the Black Lives Matter movement organized peaceful protests in the city of Dallas, Texas. And then this happened. Dallas sniper attack. 5 officers killed, suspect identified. In the CNN article, it states, the ambush started with gunshots that killed 5 officers and sent screaming crowds scrambling for cover. It ended when a Dallas police bomb squad robot killed a gunman after negotiations failed. Investigators identified the dead attacker as Micah Xavier Johnson, 25, of Mesquite, Texas, a military veteran who'd served in Afghanistan. Police searched his home Friday and found bomb-making materials, ballistic vests, rifles, ammunition, and the Personal Journal of Combat Tactics. They are analyzing information in the journal, police said in a statement. Investigators determined Johnson was the lone shooter in this incident, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings said, confirming what federal officials had told CNN. This was a mobile shooter who had written manifestos on how to shoot and move, and that's what he did, Rawlings said at a news conference. Was this killing condign, you ask? No, absolutely not. Just because a certain group of people have done bad things to your demographic, it's not okay to murder them all. First, let's address this issue. Are all police racist with the intention of killing all black people? No. There will be some racist police in the US, but even if the police kill a black man, that doesn't make them automatically racist, because there are reasons behind it. In this graphic, by the Washington Post, of the fatal police shootings of 2014, out of 1,000 shootings that had happened, 564 of the victims were armed with a gun, and only 90 of the victims were unarmed. As we can clearly see from these numbers, over half of the killings by police were done for a reason, and only 9% seem to be completely unjust. But the Black Lives Matter movement are blowing a lot of these police shootings out of proportion. So, who are the Black Lives Matter movement, and are their criticisms valid? On their site in the About section, it states, Black Lives Matter is a chapter-based national organization working for the validity of black life. We are working to rebuild the Black Liberation Movement. This is not a moment, but a movement. Hashtag Black Lives Matter was created in 2012 after Trayvon Martin's murder. George Zimmerman was acquitted for his crime, and the dead 17-year-old Trayvon was posthumously placed on trial after his own murder. Rooted in the experience of black people in this country who actively resist our dehumanization, hashtag Black Lives Matter is a call to action and a response to the virulent anti-black racism that permeates our society. Black Lives Matter is a unique contribution that goes beyond extrajudicial killings of black people by police and vigilantes. Wow, reading that makes me feel sick. But let's not rip on the introduction too much. But instead, let's look at the issues they put forward. especially the first three. Number 1. How black poverty and genocide is state violence. Firstly, poverty statistics which the U.S. Census gives out show that in 2014, 26.2% of the black community are in poverty, which is the highest out of any other racial group in the United States of America. Does state violence cause this, you ask? My answer, not necessarily. Because as we saw earlier, most of the police shootings were done against victims who had a firearm. In the legal statutes of the USA, there is nothing that specifically targets the black community. And yes, I have heard of the crack cocaine sentencing, but crack gets a larger sentence not because black people use the drug more, but the fact that it is impure and sometimes can contain other illegal drugs, which makes the sentence longer. But on the other hand, in the United States, if you are a convicted felon, you are less likely to get a job, which continues the cycle. But my thoughts of U.S. crime will be presented in point 2. Point 2. How 2.8 million black people are locked in cages in this country is state violence. Okay, yes, the U.S. incarceration rate is ridiculous. I honestly believe that people who have been convicted of nonviolent drug offenses should not be put in jail, but instead should be put in medical institutions to help combat drug addiction. However, the concern that this is all state brutality is not completely valid, because the movement addresses the issue by claiming that institutions such as the American government are keeping them oppressed by patrolling African American communities and criminalizing more of the black community. Well, Black Lives Matter. The FBI crime statistics of 2014 show that out of 2,491 black victims, 2,245 were killed by black people, which sounds like a good reason for police to look into those areas. In those same stats, it says out of 3,005 white victims, 2,509 were killed by white people. So why don't police look into white neighborhoods, you ask? Well, according to InfoPolice, in 2010, white people are 63.7% of the population, and the black population is only 12.2%, which makes crime highly concentrated in black neighborhoods. Why is the black community so violent, you ask? I'll cover that in point 3. Point 3. How black women are bearing the burden of a relentless assault on our children and our families is state violence. Yes, we understand that jail sentences can tear apart families, but why are rates of violence so high in black communities, and does state violence cause this? In this figure, we see that the non-Hispanic black demographic has the highest rate of divorce, which is 38.39 per 1,000 women. When divorce rates are that high, the children of that community will face adverse effects mentally, and many psychological studies have shown that children that grow up without two parents suffer more mental disorders and turn toward violence. Also, the black community idolizes thug culture, and all the irresponsibility that is being preached are modeling these vulnerable children into the failures of the previous generations. I won't be covering the next 3 points because the first 3 were the most relevant, with the issues being discussed about the shootings that had happened last month. If you want me to cover the next 3 points, please leave a comment down below. In conclusion, there are a lot of problems with the U.S. police force, and measures such as police training and demilitarizing the police force are good places to start. However, for Black Lives Matter, maybe, just maybe, look internally at the problems that the black community have caused for themselves, and try to sort that out first, before you point your finger at the government and society as a whole for keeping your community down. And that's all I have to say. See ya!